What? I can't even keep the straight face right now. I can't do it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. Fantasy Alarm live stream here, doing the DFS watch list. I'm Howard Bender. With me, I'm like red as a berry right now. I just saw my face on the computer screen. Howard Bender, John and Pemba. Time to start talking, getting ourselves prepped and ready for DFS Week 5. This past week, playbook was fire. Coaches were fire. We crushed it. It was the perfect week to crush it because we did take advantage of a lot of high-scoring games. We did take advantage of some low ownership percentages. So let's see if we can keep this, this mobile and get it moving along. John, how are you? First of all, how are you, John?
I'm doing pretty good. Last week, aside from Ryan Tannehill being who we thought he was, and Eli Manning doing what Eli Manning typically does, even in a great situation. DFS was good. A lot of Andy Dalton, a lot of Matt Ryan. We had all the receiver values, the DFS dartboard that we had on site. Nailed it. So look forward to really continuing another week of success for sure.
What hurt more, John? Was it Eli in a cushy situation there? Was it his struggles or was it Ryan Tannehill's struggles that hurt you deeply the most? I mean, like in the core.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Tannehill hurt a lot. One, because he was going against my New England Patriots, and it hurts me just to go against them anyways. And then I went on, a few different places and kind of touted the Dolphins, and I thought Tannehill was able to, carry over his early season success against this bad Patriots defense, and yeah, it got so bad that Brock Osweiler entered the game. I mean, if Brock Osweiler is playing over you, things have gone terribly wrong. So that one probably hurt the most. One of my bigger flubs through the first 4 weeks this season.
It's kind of funny you bring up Brock Osweiler. I ended a Twitter feud. There were a couple of guys going at each other back and forth, and there was something said about DeAndre Hopkins and him being, he could catch any quarterback's passes. I just said Brock Osweiler, and both guys just stopped talking.
It's true.
Maybe they muted me out of the conversation. I don't know, but yeah, there you go. So good old Brock. Brock Osweiler, Frank Gore.
Yeah, right.
Combining there, that was perfect. Everything every Kenyan Drake owner wants. And loves.
Yeah, terrible.
Let's talk about the watch list right now. Let's talk about who we're looking at. Actually, all the coaches' articles are out. Quarterbacks from you. Tom Vecchio does the running backs. Colby Conway, he does the wide receivers. And then our illustrious producer today, James Grande. What's up, James? Hey, buddy. He does the tight end coach. So let's talk about who we're looking at right now. And obviously these names can change and disappear based on the news because there is a lot of interesting news going on. How about this? Before we go to the watch list, let me ask you this running back news because we got a couple of guys coming back this week. Devonta Freeman's back this week. Joe Mixon's back this week. We know Mark Ingram is back this week, even though that's the Monday night game. But that's a cushy matchup, at least on paper, for Ingram against Washington. And you know what? I'm going to throw this. How about this dartboard wrinkle into it already? Are you ready for this? You ready for this name?
Here.
Are you sure? You sure? How about Robert Turbin? Coming back. Colts, guaranteed min price. Guaranteed minimum price on any DFS site. Robert Turbin poaches a goal line carry this week because Jordan Wilkins sucks at football. Marlon Mack is made out of tissue paper. Nyheim Hines only catches passes.
True.
Robert Turbin.
I mean, if you're going to play him, you have to play the Thursday slate, obviously, because Patriots Colts Thursday night, so you won't get him on any of the main slates. I don't know. I mean, I guess, right? Who was the guy that Craig was talking about on the Wager Alarm stream? McNichols or something like that?
He was, Jeremy McNichols. He was already released.
Oh, it was already
released. He was released. Right. He played. He ran the ball twice, got like 35 yards, and then they cut him the next day.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're already in maybe like the Monday, Thursday from this past week, and you want to, use Robert Turbin as a salary saver to bum up somewhere else, sure, why not? But no, I don't think so. I'm not expecting much to come from that.
All right. I didn't think so. I don't either. I'm not going to use it. It won't be in the dartboard, obviously, because it is the Thursday night game. But do you have interest in Mixon? How mix in Freeman at all in this one? Freeman against the Steelers here. I mean, this is primed to look like that Atlanta-Cincinnati game, Steeler-Kansas City game.
I mean, I think my main concern with both those guys is their first game back from injury, and both of their backups played really well in their absence. Gio Bernard, made a case for why I always thought he should have been seeing a larger role in their offense, all along, ever since he's been on the team. And then we always know Tevin Coleman is potentially even a better back at times than Freeman has shown. Freeman's just a little bit more versatile, which is why they use him in their offense. So I don't think you can really lean or trust in either of them game one back. Maybe next week or the week after that, as they get their feet from under them, maybe you see sort of how the carry share workload goes in this one. You can count on it, but only contrarian plays. I can't imagine there'll be a high ownership in either of them.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's going to be a high ownership. There will be, though, and when one of them goes off for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns, that person will win the Millie Maker. All right, let's start at the quarterback position, like always. You did the quarterback coach. I've got a couple of guys out there. We got some overlaps here. So talk to me here. Who you liking the most so far this week?
Yeah, I mean, you and I both agree with Matt Ryan, obviously in a plus spot here against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh can't stop anybody. Matt Ryan's, coming off, one of his better games of the year, and he's really, looking like the guy he was a couple years ago. Throwing all these touchdown passes, throwing for a bunch of yards. So I think he's in a really, almost must-play spot. I think he's going to be highly owned, too. The price tag's up there, but I like him. Another guy I think you can look to is Cam Newton. He's the person I always play in GPPs. Just his upside with running the football. He's already got 3 rushing touchdowns on the season to go at 5 passing touchdowns. And another thing is, as poor of a passer as he's been in years past, this year he's completing 67% of his passes. He's had over 100 QB rating the last 2 starts for him. So though he's not throwing for a ton of yards, he's at least being efficient when it comes to throwing the football, and that's always good. So I like Cam Newton if I'm spending up. If we're looking in the mid-tier, I know a guy that you weren't a big fan of. I mentioned him off air, but I think Marcus Mariota, for the same reason that I like Cam Newton, he's being efficient when throwing the football. They told us last week that he had a bum elbow, and he threw 43 times, 344 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But he's another guy that's mobile, and I just sort of have a soft spot in GVPs for quarterbacks that can run because they don't necessarily need to rely on those passing yards to get their points, and both of them can run for touchdowns. So in that mid-tier, I like Mariota against Buffalo, who I know they've looked better against the Packers and Vikings of all teams, but, it was just, weeks 1 and 2 where they were getting torched by every quarterback they faced. So those are kind of the guys I'm building some of my lineups around. Mostly, obviously, Andy Dalton is a guy I think that's always in play. Miami, I think, got exposed last week. Dalton's having a good year. And then if we go down the value price, last year I touted C.J. Beathard. I think I said on this live stream that he's not as big of a scrub as we thought he was. We equated him as being like a min-salary pitcher for DFS baseball, and he put up almost 20 DraftKings points. So this week, another guy that you and I both agree on, sort of in the same spot, Josh Rosen against the 49ers.
Yeah, I like a lot of what I saw with Josh Rosen. Like, I was talking about when he came into the game, it wasn't as electric as it was when Baker Mayfield jumped into that game, obviously, because Cleveland is just, so desperate for it. But like the team perked up. Chad Williams was looking fine, downfield. Larry Fitzgerald was looking like he was a little bit more excited about the whole thing. David Johnson had a little bit more giddy up in his step there. And so
Ricky Seals-Jones caught some passes.
Ricky Seals-Jones caught some passes. I love seeing that too. Rosen, it's so funny. I didn't realize just how slight of a frame he has, at least, in the NFL game there. And you see him standing next to, all the other players. I'm like, why is the kicker in the huddle right now? It makes no sense to me. But, I mean, listen, he was efficient with his passing. He did look good. It wasn't mind-blowing by any stretch of the imagination. But now a week of full practices here, connecting with Larry Fitzgerald on a much bigger level there, having a guy like Ricky Seals-Jones to lean on to really, maybe that this is like the boost that they needed as well. And, yeah, listen, for 4,700 – I mean, it's ridiculous.
The 49ers are not a good defense. So
no, they're not.
And again, I'm not saying that Josh Rosen's going to go and lead the slate in points, but if he gets 15 to, if he matches Beathard last week, it was like 19 and change. I mean, that's enough to help you get, some of these high price backs, high price receivers in plus spots this week that, and not kill you at quarterback. So I kind of like him.
Yeah, listen, but Beathard went 298 with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and he ran for a few yards there. I mean, that right there. I mean, that's giving you it's giving you like 3x value almost.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so if you're getting that out of Rosen, and I think Rosen actually had a little bit more upside because I do like his weapons. So I'm definitely going to be using him as far as a GPP. Maybe that'll be like the all dart lineup there.
Yeah, for sure.
The one that I play on the Thursday to Monday slate, John. That I use Robert Turbin in.
Ooh, risky.
Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, so I like your quarterbacks there for sure. Yeah, I'm trying to see who else you've got here. Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco. Listen again. If he's going to throw it 40 times,
but I keep on talking about him, and he keeps on throwing the football for. He threw. He's averaging 43 pass attempts for 313 yards through 4 weeks. This is a guy. I think it wasn't until week 2 this year. Hadn't thrown for 300 yards, or week 1, whatever it was. Hadn't thrown for 300 yards in over a season. They just never let him throw the football in years past. Some of that had to do with probably the weapons, the aging receivers and just no-name guys that they gave him. But, I mean, John Brown revitalized. Doesn't seem like he's dealing with any of the illness that kind of hurt him last year. Crabtree and Snead are looking good. I mean, yeah, and their running game is kind of non-existent right now. Alex Collins keeps on fumbling. They use Buck Allen in the passing game. I think that's helping Flacco out. This could be another really good spot for him, I think. Oakland, not a good defense. They just gave up 40-something points to the Browns last week. I know a lot of that was on the ground, but yeah, I kind of like Flacco here. I think he's in a good spot.
I'm over on Football Reference right now because I want to go to the play index here and do like a little finder thing, because actually Joe Flacco in the last 3 years, maybe 4 years, ranks in the top 3 for pass attempts in the NFL.
Wow.
And that's the funny thing is, I sit there and I talk about Alex Collins and how much I love Alex Collins if he would stop friggin' fumbling the ball. But because of, the fact that Harbaugh has Flacco throwing 40 times a game, it was like 43. It was like an average of 43 times a game over like a 3-year span. And it blows me away. So, I mean, listen, I don't hate Flacco. I mean, yes, I don't like the weapons that he has. And even with Crabtree and Brown and Snead, and maybe Hayden Hurst comes back and does something. I find it so hard to put my faith and trust into somebody who I don't think should be throwing that many times a game. Yeah. And he does. And I guess that's really the mentality that I need to change.
Yeah, you need to shake that. You can't have biases. And the one thing I've always learned, especially in DFS, and I'm guilty of it too, is that sometimes you just have to trust the numbers. If you go into a sport having a bias on certain players, you end up missing opportunities to be successful. Last week, I was blind to the Chicago Bears passing game. That's my own fault. And not a lot of people were on Mitch Trubisky, but if anybody had been watching football for the first 4 weeks, I think you and I could go out there and throw the football on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and have success. I missed it because I had this bias on that passing tag. Trubisky didn't look great over these first couple of weeks, but there he was, 5 first half touchdowns. These are the things you need to sort of eliminate from your, when it comes down to sit down and building strategy, building lineups, that you can't have these player biases, you can't have these team biases, because that won't win you money. So I do have the stat here. Before the game against the Bengals, in which he threw for 376, his last 300-yard passing game was December 12th of 2016. So
that's amazing. That's amazing that you could throw it for 40 times a game and not have a 300-yard game. That's
over a full season's worth of games without throwing for 300 yards.
It's kind of gross.
It is, but he's throwing for him now. So and until he shows me otherwise and the matchups maybe get more difficult, which I don't anticipate they will, because if you look at that AFC North schedule, they play the NFC South. And again, everybody can throw on them, which is why I'm high on Flacco, high on Dalton a lot, because and then within their own division, they can't really stop the pass either, aside from Baltimore. So yeah, this is just a good setup for Flacco and Dalton.
Yeah. All right. We're going into week 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So where's their bye week? Their bye week is week 9. When is Baltimore's bye week? I'm looking at their schedule because if you look at what they've got going on here, they got the Browns this week, Titans, Saints, Panthers, and then here you go. Look at this run here. Steelers, Bengals, Raiders, Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks.
Yeah.
That's crazy. There's Joey Flacco, your fantasy playoff quarterback.
Yeah, well, you brought that up to me a couple of days ago. Somebody asking you, if it was too far ahead to pick up Flacco, and you questioned it, and I was again kind of touting him a little bit to you. I was like, he's not wrong. Look at the schedule. These guys, look at Andy Dalton's next 6 games. It's against that entire division. It's just incredible the matchups that he has, and he gets the Chiefs in there too. I think the NFC North plays the AFC West and the NFC South, which have some of the worst pass defenses in the NFL this year. So I mean, yeah, it's you have to eliminate these biases. Andy Dalton this year is gonna be good just by default. He just. Well,
it's not default. We can talk about Bill Lazor and what his work is with Andy Dalton. True. That's where
that's fair. Lies. But the matchups are also helping him a lot. So yes, he's had success under this offensive coordinator. I think there was a stat that was tweeted out a couple weeks back. I put in one of my waiver wire articles about his success under this offensive coordinator. But yeah, I mean, there's just the way they're having it. The schedule wise is just great. The Steelers this year. Fantasy football championship week get the Saints. So if you're Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Le'Veon Bell if he's back, Ben Roethlisberger, if you make it to the championship, they get the Saints, which I mean at home too, which should be just a ton of points.
Love it, absolutely love it. All right, let's talk some running backs here. Tom Vecchio with the running backs coach, Melvin Gordon atop his list. Melvin Gordon just atop everybody's list. Yep. Absolutely love him. Gurley, definitely. It is mid-tier price, guys. Kareem Hunt, TJ Yeldon, and then his lower tier here, Jalen Richard, Aaron Jones. Let's talk about it. It's just, Aaron Jones again, 4,300. Were we on the air when we started talking about Aaron Jones? It seems so long ago.
Not today, no, but we definitely talked about him last week. But no, we were talking about a little bit right before we went on air about how. These fantasy sites, they haven't been able to catch up yet to sort of the trend in snap counts. Because they released, these slates so early to get as many users as possible. These are where you can take advantage of these pricing discounts, we'll call it, pricing errors. Aaron Jones is slowly climbing up the snap counts. Jamal Williams is going down. Jones is clearly the better running back. Anybody with 2 eyes knew that even before the season started, but he was suspended. He's going to get more carries than Jamal Williams this week. The snap count should be higher. This is a great spot for him. I think everybody's going to be on him, too. This isn't a sneaky week to play him, maybe like last week was. But you also can't really avoid him, I don't think, in my opinion.
I agree with you. Before we get to some more of these running backs here, you guys want to play daily fantasy sports, but don't want to play with the Sharks or worse, versus 500 lineups generated by a computer? Well, we found Fantasy Factor. They have only single entry contests in what seems to be a pretty fun community. So come play with us there and make your first deposit. They'll give you $5 to play with immediately. Go to fantasyalarm.com/factor to become a factor. fantasyalarm.com/factor. All right. Let's talk about some other running backs here who I like. I just lost my page on the watch list, but I can find it nice and easy.
I'm on David Johnson this week. I mentioned to you again before we got on the show. I like the fact that Josh Rosen is the quarterback. I hope maybe the offense now sort of leans a little bit more on Johnson to get a little bit more creative with him. But this is a running back that's an 8,000 plus running back. His skill set is to be among the best running backs in football. He's $6,300 on DraftKings. I don't have his FanDuel price on me in front of it. I'm sure that's been depressed a little bit as well. Last week, 22 carries, most all season long. Had a touchdown, still involved in the passing game. 3 catches, 4 targets for 41 yards. I'm hoping that just continues to increase. And again, as we mentioned with Rosen and the great matchup against the 49ers, same deal here. They're allowing the 8th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. I just love his overall skill set. This is a PPR format. I can see Johnson at that price point being pretty popular this week as well.
You trust Johnson in cash games, or this is strictly GPP for you?
No, I think at this price, I trust him in. The price in the matchup, I think, is safe enough to put him in cash games because you're not expecting him when he's like 8,500 to 9,000 like a Camaro, where you need these huge outputs. At his price tag, his floor is probably like 15 points. His ceiling could be 30 if he scores twice. So I'm a big fan of him right here.
Stack?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna play Rosen, I think the only way you play Rosen is in a stack anyway. So you do it with David Johnson, Ricky Seals-Jones, David Johnson, and Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, whoever. You always kind of pair them up, but I think that David Johnson's okay to play as a one-off this week in both cash and GPPs.
Beautiful. Who else are you looking at?
I mean, if you go down the list, I think it's pretty easy. I'm a big fan of Deion Lewis in PPR formats. Buffalo's in line with 6 most fantasy points to opposing running backs this year. I know you're a Derrick Henry guy, but for me,
no. I'm not a Derrick Henry. One week I went with Derrick Henry. 1 week, was it week 2? I went with Derrick Henry. Listen, this is the Austin Hooper argument that you're having with me, John.
Yeah,
you're just giving me another player. You know what? I will pick. Hey, you want to talk about Ryan Tannehill? He's your boy. He's your favorite quarterback.
And I will accept that because I said he was going to do good things that week. So I like Deion Lewis, though. PPR formats, he's going to get the carries, at least 10 carries. He's been proven to be a better runner than Henry at times anyways, and the involvement in the passing game. I think he's at a good spot at $5,400. I'm not going to go to Kenyon Drake again, fading him. I think he's just...
Why?
I think he's just completely being X'd out. I saw him in the running back coach, Cheetah Yeldon is there. I think he's in a good spot. Obviously, Fournette already ruled out, so you're going to get some value there, involvement in both the passing game and running game. So those are some of the other ones I look at. Obviously, if you go to the top, some chalkier plays. Christian McCaffrey, someone I always look at because just the volume of catches he gets is insane. And then the week before the bye, he instead ran for 184 yards and 28 carries. So he's proven to be a capable runner. He's proven he can catch the pass. So I think Christian McCaffrey's in a good spot as well. I don't think Todd Gurley needs a mention because he's Todd Gurley. Melvin Gordon, I'm worried about him a little bit because his most carries this year has been 15. I know the fantasy points have been there, 3 weeks of 30. But if he doesn't score or he doesn't get the passing touchdowns like he has, that lowers his ceiling tremendously at that price tag. I know it's the Raiders and he's probably going to do fine, but something like that, if he doesn't get the volume of touches like he is, I just worry. I don't know. But I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I think if he's not getting the volume, then yes, it's a problem. However, if you look at what Melvin Gordon's done, I mean, you want to talk about yards after contact.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude's ridiculous. I mean, I'm watching them pile up, defensive players on top of him trying to get down, and he's shoving dudes in the face, plowing his way through. Listen, one of the reasons that they rely on Austin Eckler so much is because it helps keep Melvin Gordon fresh. They saw that it worked well last year. They're doing it again this year. So Melvin Gordon, 15 touches, I'm perfectly fine with that. I really am. I mean, I think obviously you want to find guys who are more cost effective. Mm-hmm. If we're playing in GPP also, I mean, $8,600 on DraftKings for Melvin Gordon, it's pricey. It's pricey. Yeah. And the ownership projections have him close to 20% right now. So, to utilize him there, I mean, listen, if I'm playing in a $5 50-50 and I'm pretty confident in a lot of my knowledge of the lower end of the spectrum, that I'll put Melvin Gordon with Aaron Jones together because the price is ridiculous. And to be able to do that, you throw in a couple of cheap wideouts and you can kind of get that. I get what you're saying, though, as far as you don't know if he doesn't get the touchdowns. But, I mean, listen, you know what? We can say that about anybody. If Christian McCaffrey doesn't get the throws from Cam Newton, well, then what's he going to do?
No, I mean, that's fair, I guess. I just I look for more consistency, I guess. I know he's been consistent because of the scoring, but, I'd rather a guy be consistent with yards and touches, and let the touchdowns come than someone who's just consistent scoring on the limited, overall touches he's getting. But I get it. He's an elite play. Great matchup at home even. So, yeah, I mean, I'll probably have some shares, but I don't think I'd build my lineups specifically around him. 20% is pretty high, though, so hard to argue there. Any other running backs you're looking at?
No, not yet.
All right.
Not yet. Again, I like to use this to just kind of gauge what's going on and who I want to add, who I don't want to add. I mean, again, I wish this Washington New Orleans game was on Sunday and not on Saturday on Monday night. I mean, I think that it just puts a lot of different guys in play.
Well, the Redskins receivers are all so cheap, and this is a matchup where you want to use them because, I mean, how often are they going to have the upside they do today? I mean, in this week and in other weeks. So yeah, I mean, you'll have to play the Monday showdown or the Monday Thursday slate to get action there. Is what it is.
It is exactly what it is. Let's go to wide receivers. Let's talk about some of the names that we have out there. I threw in, for the watch list, a couple of guys who, routinely there. Emmanuel Sanders is routinely there based on matchup. Tyler Boyd, with what he's doing, has been great. He got bumped up on DraftKings to 5,700.
Oh, time.
So right. They're waking up to him there. Thielen, I'm kind of digging on Amari Cooper a little bit. I know I probably shouldn't, but I look at Amari Cooper. I look at the matchup there. I know Casey Hayward has been struggling a lot with coverage right now because they're trying to overcompensate with the secondary, with losing as much as they're losing in the middle, not having Bosa there, not having the same kind of a pass rush. So again, I'm just kind of checking these guys out and seeing who's who. Any really under the radar guys that you're kind of checking out?
So I saw a tweet today just talking about Amari Cooper, Casey Hayward on their matchups in 2017 from last year. Maybe you've seen the same one. In week 6, Hayward shadowed Cooper on 80% of the routes. He had 1 catch for 7 yards. Week 17, Hayward shadowed Cooper 75% of the routes, 1 catch for 11 yards. So in 2 games, 2 catches, 18 total yards. Granted, last year was just the worst year ever for Amari Cooper, so maybe you chalk that up to that, but those numbers aren't exactly too intriguing to me. Plus, the inconsistency with Amari Cooper, right now we're on like an every other week thing with him. So I understand the appeal, I understand the matchup, and the Chargers' poor pass defense, but if Hayward, for whatever reason, is just able to keep up with Cooper and frustrate him and take him out of the game, that's a risk. Cooper's never a cash game play for me anyway, so in GPPs it makes sense. I think producer James Grande said last week his best lineup was stacking Raiders. So, I mean, that's what you're going to have to do, stack on Carr, Cooper, Cook, and, hope one of those lineups hit. But, it's just so difficult for me to trust Amari Cooper.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other receivers, guys who could end up on the dartboard. How about that? Ooh. How about you? You love the under 5s.
I do. I definitely loved the under 5s last week because they just really needed to make a price correction. I think I sent you a list of like 10 wide receivers who were like under $5,000 at all. Like Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, like all those guys were all under there. Fortunately, they got a price correction this week, though. I mean, I think D.D. Westbrook's the guy that a lot of people are going to look at coming off that huge game last week. 9 catches, 13 targets for 130 yards. This week he gets the Chiefs. Again, I know it's difficult to trust Blake Bortles, but recently, whenever the Jaguars have needed Bortles to throw, he's been pretty successful at it. So I think you can look at D.D. Westbrook as a guy that's going to be popular.
I know he's going to be popular. I just don't. I don't buy it. I don't buy it because if you look at who was on top of or supposed to be covering Westbrook that entire game, it was Buster Screen. Yeah. And Buster Screen's terrible. He's horrible. And when you've got Trumaine Johnson and you've got Morris Claiborne taking care of Keelan Cole and Dante Moncrief, at least for the most part, until they just gave up and quit on the game, D.D. Westbrook was just abusing the crap out of Buster Screen. Listen, I don't love the Chiefs secondary at all. I think the Chiefs secondary has been horrendous. However, if you look at DVOA numbers against the slot receiver, they actually do pretty well. It's their outside work that really needs the help. So I think whatever. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong here, but Westbrook to me is not. He's a guy that everybody's going to look at. Right. I think he's a guy that everybody's going to get burnt.
Yep. Someone that you had mentioned last week, and I was a little bit iffy on him, but he ended up having a huge game, was Mohamed Sanu. 6 catches, 9 targets, 111 yards. I mean, Calvin Ridley went off in that game too, and so did Julio Jones. So they all got their fantasy points. But now you have Sanu again, $4,000 on DraftKings, getting the Pittsburgh defense, allowing the third most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers this year. Snoo's being targeted too. 9 targets last game, 7 the week before that, 6 in week 1. So it's not as if they're shying away from him. Maybe Devonta Freeman coming back takes away a little bit of targets because he's more involved in the passing game than Tevin Coleman is. But, I mean, it looks like I said, they're letting Matt Ryan throw the football. This is a spot to let him throw the football. Sanu at $4,000, I think he's definitely a dart throw this week.
Yep, I definitely think he's a dart throw as well. I'll throw out Christian Kirk as a possibility as well. He's, he's seen, like 7 targets a game the last 2 games? Mm-hmm. They have like 5 this time, 8 the time before that. I'm also kind of checking out Rashad Higgins for Cleveland.
Yeah,
3,500 again.
I think it was you that mentioned that Baker Mayfield and him have a good the good relationship or good, chemistry together. Or he mentioned, or Baker Mayfield mentioned Higgins specifically about liking working with him. So yeah, I think you can go there. I think another ultimate dart throw and a guy that's getting more looks. Martavis Bryant had 7 targets last week, 5 targets the week before. He's a deep threat.
How bad did he look on that drop?
Yeah, I know, right? That's always been the problem with him, though. But I mean, he gets open. He just needs to get some stickum or something on those gloves. But the Chargers defense, if Casey Hayward's going to be shutting down Amari Cooper all day, however hard that's going to be, Martavis Bryant could be open. Jordy Nelson, another guy, could be open. Both those guys are under $5,000. I said Bryant's $3,400 on DraftKings. So again, just a free dart. You're not looking to build lineups around him, but if you're doing stacks and you need cheap options, I think he's another guy to look at.
All right. Thumbing through Colby Conway's wide receiver coach here. A lot of the names that we've touched on, very much so. One bargain name, and he was probably one of the most popular waiver pickups, or at least he will be tonight for the rest of waivers, and that's Kiki Kute.
So here's my thing on him is Will Fuller going to play or not? Because whoever's the number 2 receiver on that Texans offense actually gets targets. Bruce Ellington had 8 targets in week 1, and I think he scored a touchdown. Then Fuller came back, and he went back to being the Fuller we all saw last week. Then this week, Fuller gets hurt early, and then Kiki Kute goes off and has a monster game. So Deshaun Watson's not afraid to throw to whoever the number 2 guy is across from DeAndre Hopkins. It's just whether or not it's going to be Kute or Fuller's able to play. They said that Fuller probably could have played or returned to the game. I think it was the note that I saw on him from the hamstring injury. He just didn't. So maybe there's a chance he still ends up playing this week. And then that knocks down Kute's value. But yeah, if you find out come Sunday that Fuller's out, yeah, that's a great play.
I'm looking through some of the comments here as well. I don't mean to backtrack to the running backs here. Yep. But the question that's been posed, John, is how many more 100-yard, 1-touchdown games does Marshawn Lynch need to have before he is DFS relevant?
I think he's been DFS relevant all season. And if you watch, which I'm sure you have, all the Brandon Marion videos for the last 3 weeks, the DFS bargains video, the contrarian plays video, she's been touting Marshawn Lynch every single week. And every single week he's come through. Last week was the first week I put him in my lineup. Didn't score a touchdown, but ran for 130 yards. Also had 3 catches for 27 yards. He's got a handful of catches in each game, too, which helps in the PPR formats. He's going to keep finding the end zone. They're going to keep leaning on him. I like him. I mean, I was watching Browns players just bounce off him. People still just get rolled by Marshawn Lynch. I think that year off maybe kind of revitalized him a little bit. The offense helps him, too. But at $5,500, I'm still playing Marshawn Lynch.
All right. I think we've covered the wide receivers there pretty much. Let's wrap it up here. Tight end speak. James Grande does the tight end work over for the coaches. Top tier, Zach Ertz, George Kittle, Jordan Reed, Jared Cook, Vance McDonald in the middle tier. Looking at a little at some dart throws there. I like the CJ Uzomah dart throw there.
Yeah, I mean, last year it was Tyler Kroft that ended up being the guy when Eifert was out. It could be Uzomah, it could be Kroft, I guess. So I've seen a lot of people clamor to pick up Kroft in the wake of the Eifert injury because of last year. So I guess we'll have to kind of see how that plays. I don't know how you don't.
I think that's just gut instinct to just go with the guy. But if you actually look at the snap counts, between him and CJ Uzuma. First week, CJ 65%, Croft 31%. Then week 2, it went down for CJ to 49% and 45% for Croft, but then it went back 54 to 32, and then last week 70 to 27. So if I'm throwing the dart at the, I'm throwing it at CJ Uzuma instead of Tyler Croft.
Yeah, I guess I have to look into it a little bit more. Maybe use him as a better pass blocker. That's why he's in a lot of the games. They use 2 tight end sets. Obviously, Tyler Eifert is the one that's going to go out for the routes, and maybe Uzuma stays in blocks or whatever. I think there's probably some more research to be done. Again, dart throws anyways. They're both the same exact price tag on DraftKings. And Ricky Seals-Jones is the same cost. And I think we both would probably rather play Ricky Seals-Jones at $2,900 than Croft or Uzuma anyways, right? That's probably where I would look at in that respect. If we're going up a little bit more, I think Vance McDonald, it's going to be difficult for me not to play him. I know, Atlanta has struggled sort of over the last few years to defend the tight end. McDonald has 5 targets each of the last 2 games. We know Big Ben likes to throw to his tight end when he gets in trouble. He's scrambling around the pocket, usually finds them open. So McDonald at mid-tier price tag right there, $3,700 on DraftKings. I think that's just a really, really good price tag for him. And he's probably going to be my primary tight end this week.
Really? Really? How are they doing points allowed by position here? Where are they? Falcons. Okay, middle of the pack there.
Yep, middle of the pack, and they allowed the touchdown last week to Eifert, right? And before he ended up getting hurt, I had to go back and kind of see week by week to see, how they fared against tight ends that are actually capable of catching passes. Sometimes these tight end stats are inflated, or because they face teams who don't utilize the tight end, and then you look at teams who do use the tight end, and those tight ends end up having big games. So I'll have to look at the game logs to see who Atlanta has faced and how often those teams use the tight end. But
all right, here you go. You ready?
Yep.
Let me give it to you right now because I got the Eagles in week 1. So Zach Ertz, they held him in check. Week 2, they went up against the Carolina Panthers. That was Greg Olsen, who
Olsen already got hurt, right?
Did he get hurt in week 1?
Yeah, I think so.
Let me see. Did he really? Was it week 1? What a punk.
Week 1.
Yeah, okay. So Ian Thomas then. So nothing big there. Week 3, the Saints, who really have not gone to Ben Watson very much at all. And then last week against Cincinnati. So 2 teams that use the tight end, 1 for 1 there, I guess.
And in that game against the Saints, Watson had 5 catches for 71 yards.
So maybe they are softening up a little bit there.
And if you don't believe in Nick Foles, maybe that's a reason why Zach Ertz couldn't get it done.
Oh, Nicky Foles. You just like the Vance McDonald stiff arm, dude. Come on, just admit it. You just want to see Vance McDonald do that to like Brian Poole.
That was one of the more, we joke about it, but he literally stiffed on a guy to an IR spot. So, Chris Conte might not be in football anymore because of that stiff arm. So who knows?
Vance McDonald, he's a big boy. I like it. Hey, you guys love your team. You want to bet on them? Well, where do you play? Where do you play? What is this? What? Wow, grammar issues here all over the place. Let's just say it, guys. Go to MyBookie. All right, mybookie.ag. MyBookie, they've been in business for years. They got great reviews online, mobile site, super easy to use. Visit fantasyalarm.com/mybookie. Use the promo code ALARM, and MyBookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar. fantasyalarm.com/mybookie, promo code ALARM, dollar for dollar match. You play, you win, you get paid. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yep.
John, any final thoughts here as we head into the night? I'm going to go watch a little baseball, but I'm going to update the DFS watch list with a number of players who we've just kind of talked about here. Final thoughts at all?
No, not really. I think it's gonna be a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of stacks with the Falcons and Pittsburgh game. Don't fade it. Sometimes people think to get a little bit too cute and in case they go under, they don't hit all the points. This game's going to hit the points, in my opinion. So make sure you get your exposure to this game. There's some cheap enough guys to get exposure on the Falcon side. Like I said, spending down. And Big Ben at home is a much better quarterback than Big Ben on the road, so I'm expecting some bounce back performances from the Steelers.
Right, looking at that game right now, it's Pittsburgh -3 with a 57 over under.
It's going to be high scoring.
Jackpot. Love it. All right, that's going to do it for us here at the Fantasy Alarm live stream. Guys, you can hit us up in the chat on fantasyalarm.com. You got John Impemba's Twitter handle there at jimpemba777. John Impemba answers everybody on Twitter.
I do. You tweet at me, I'll be there to answer your questions. Also in the subscriber chat, hit us up with all your questions. We'll be there. Help you guys out.
Beautiful. All right, that's going to do it for us today here, Fantasy Alarm live stream. We'll catch you next time.